Danielle Colby mourning her late burlesque friend, to Mike Wolf being skeptical about having Danielle on board for the show, these are American Pickers' controversial secrets you didn't know. First off, did you know Danielle's going through a pretty tough time? Earlier this month, the star of American Pickers caused a stir when she paid tribute to the iconic burlesque dancer Tony Elling, who passed away. In a recent Instagram post, she shared 2 photos of Tony and wrote a heartfelt caption expressing how much she had learned from her. It's clear that Tony's passing has had an impact on Danielle, but could there be more to the story? Fans think she's definitely going through more than what she's showing, because things have taken a cryptic turn, leaving fans wondering what exactly Danielle is trying to say. The reality TV star shared a thought-provoking quote that has left her followers scratching their heads. The words are deep and profound, warning about the dangers of letting inner turmoil cloud one's judgment and perception of reality. Danielle warns that in moments of tension and stress, we can project our emotions onto everything we see, causing us to view the world through a distorted lens. What does this all mean? Is Danielle going through some other personal struggles herself? Fans are left to wonder and speculate as the American Pickers star keeps everyone on the edge of their seats. But Danielle isn't the only one on the show who's struggling. Frank Fritz is also going through a hard time. Over the past few weeks, it's become clear that Frank's been all over the place. You might remember that he had a stroke in 2022, and now we're hearing that he's been facing additional challenges. According to reports in Iowa, there have been multiple 911 calls made to Frank's home in recent months. In fact, emergency services have been called a total of 4 times since November of 2022. The first call came because Frank was having a seizure, and subsequent calls were made for issues like high blood pressure and possible pneumonia. It's unclear if there's been any other calls since the start of 2023, but this news is still concerning for Frank's fans and loved ones. What makes all of this even more horrible is that he can't perform basic everyday functions by himself and needs help. It turns out that paperwork was recently filed on Frank's behalf, indicating that he needs a guardian and home care to help him during this tough time. According to the paperwork, intervention is necessary to prevent immediate harm to Frank. According to the petition filed in August, Frank's decision-making capacity has been so impaired by his stroke that he's unable to care for himself or provide for his basic needs like food, shelter, and medical care. He's also unable to make important financial decisions on his own. The guardianship was later approved by a judge, and a temporary guardian has been appointed to help him. The guardian's reportedly a longtime friend of Frank's, but we still don't know what their role will entail. And while this was kept hidden for some time, they still couldn't keep it away from the press. Much like Danielle's issues with Uncle Sam, the IRS doesn't mess around when it comes to collecting taxes, and Danielle Colby might have learned that the hard way. Back in 2013, the star of American Pickers received a notice from the government agency, and it basically said that she owed them $6,000 in back taxes from her boutique shop 4 miles to Memphis. But it seems that Danielle wasn't too keen on the idea of handing over that kind of money, and according to reports, by 2015, she had received at least 4 more letters from the IRS demanding payment. And yet, despite all of their efforts to collect what she owed, Danielle had allegedly not paid a single penny. Now, let's be real here. Owing the IRS money is never a good situation to be in, but for someone like Danielle, whose livelihood depends on scouring the country for unique and valuable items to sell, it could be particularly disastrous. Imagine trying to run a successful picking business from behind bars. Not exactly an ideal situation, right? Of course, we don't know for sure whether Danielle has since taken care of her tax debt, but one thing's for sure, if she hasn't, she's definitely playing with fire. And she isn't the only one to have had trouble with the law. Frank Fritz also had some controversial legal issues. Jerry Bruce from Greenville, South Carolina, found himself in a legal dispute with American Pickers star Frank Fritz. The issue was over a piece of farm equipment that Bruce had paid for but never received. Fritz failed to cash the $300 check that Bruce had sent him, but they still ended up in court over the matter. Perhaps it was an honest mistake on Fritz's part, but unfortunately for him, the court ruled in Bruce's favor. While the small sale likely wouldn't make a significant impact on Frank's impressive net worth, it was a frustrating situation for the buyer. However, since then, Frank's found himself in even more serious trouble, and this time, it had nothing to do with his picking skills, but rather his financial and health decisions. As I told you, Fritz suffered a stroke in 2022 and has been struggling with his health and finances ever since. In fact, the guardianship I told you about was not only put in place to help him manage his everyday activities, but to also handle his financial affairs. It's clear that Fritz has been facing a series of challenges, both personal and legal, but we hope he can get back on track soon. Plus, that isn't the only little fact that the American Pickers cast tried to hide from us. Here's another shocker. Did you know some of the scenes in the show are staged? Yep, sorry to burst your bubble, but some of it is definitely fake and staged. As entertaining as reality TV shows can be, it's no secret that some of the scenes are staged for the sake of entertainment, and American Pickers is no exception. One of the most notable examples of staged scenes in the show is the driving scenes. In the show, the stars, Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz, are seen driving around in their iconic white van, searching for hidden treasures across the country. But you might be surprised to learn that these scenes are oftentimes completely staged. Sometimes, they never even reach their supposed destination in the van. In reality, these driving scenes are just B-roll footage that sets up the story for the episode. They're meant to add to the excitement and build anticipation for the discoveries the Pickers will make. And while the playful banter between the hosts isn't scripted, it's not entirely natural either. Some of the dialogue is crafted in the editing room to make the interactions seem more entertaining, and the producers have even admitted that they sometimes have to go back and re-record conversations to make them sound more interesting. Those scenes aren't the only ones that are staged. There's also some staged picks. Yep. Some people have claimed that the show doesn't actually find all of their big-ticket items, and that they're actually planted in the locations where the hosts discover them. It's a bit disappointing to hear, but it's not entirely surprising. After all, TV producers are always looking for ways to make their shows more exciting and engaging. And let's be honest, finding a rare and valuable item in a random person's garage or storage unit is a pretty big deal, so it makes sense that producers want to make sure there's always something interesting to uncover. That being said, it does take away from the authenticity of the show a bit. Part of the appeal of American Pickers is the idea that these guys are traveling the country, meeting interesting people, and discovering hidden gems that nobody else has seen in decades. If it turns out that some of those gems were planted there by the producers, it kind of ruins the illusion, right? Anyway, I know that was a big one, but wait till you hear about this next. Did you know that Mike was having doubts about having Danielle with them on the road? According to Danielle Colby, her friend and co-star Mike Wolfe has always been protective of her and sees her as a little sister, so he was hesitant to take her on the road with him for the show. This is due to the nature of the job, which can sometimes be unsafe and require the crew to put themselves in dangerous situations. In the past, Wolfe has even gone out of his way to make sure that Colby's role on the show was mainly focused on running the antique archaeology store. Colby admits that the crew often finds themselves in precarious situations, and that's something that worries Wolfe and other members of the team. Ultimately, their concern is for her safety, and they don't want to put her in a position where she could get hurt. So, from Mike Wolfe being skeptical about having Danielle on board for the show, to Danielle Colby mourning her late burlesque friend, those were controversial secrets from American Pickers you didn't know.